I want to thank all of you for coming here this evening. This has been the most difficult journey. I will confess, many days, many nights, I sleep, wake up with tears. I hug my son every morning. When he does not answer the phone, I get paranoid what happened to him, because I have been walking this path with some of the most downtrodden women in society, children. This presentation is called Into the Light. So let me illuminate some facts, hard facts to you. Human trafficking is the second largest crime in the world, second only to gun violence. 100,000 children every year get sold into human trafficking. The average age for a person to get into prostitution is 11 or 12 years old. 40.3 million trafficked women and children in the world. United States is one of the largest consumers of human trafficking. $99 million is being spent, or rather generated, from human trafficking. These children come from abused or abandoned homes, and less than 1% get rescued. Missouri ranks 13th in the nation for human trafficking. Kansas ranks 27th. Jude tells me it's because the northeast corridor of Kansas City, with Independence Avenue and Prospect Street, Spruce, Troost Avenue, that is the confluence of many arteries, and therefore an influx of many nefarious activities, platforms for nefarious activities to happen. These sex workers are divided into two categories: the indoor and the outdoor. The outdoor workers, as you can see, have it far worse than the indoor. And now I'm going to show you some painful images of these young girls. This young girl is from Oklahoma. Her name is Corina. She ran away from home under false pretenses from this man who professed to love her, took her away, and she was sold into slavery. 5 years of abuse of body, abuse of mind. 5 years later, at 17, when she tried to leave, they killed her. 2 drug lords. Now they're in prison and they will be released. This is Letty. Letty is from Houston, this beautiful young girl. She was 12, in middle school, and she was abducted. Her parents never knew, never saw her again. 2 years she suffered, lived in abysmal conditions. Finally, this young angel killed herself. And here is our local kiddo. This is Hope. She's from Topeka, Kansas. Again, she ran away from home, from an absentee father and a mom who was always an alcoholic. She ran away thinking that she found love, only to find that she was sold into slavery. 5 years later, she tried to get out, and guess what? She's a felon, and now she's serving prison time. Why? Because in prostitution, if you're a prostitute, you're a felon, because prostitution is a felony. So a person pays for her. A person gets paid for her. She becomes the object. And when she says no, she is put in prison. And here is the protagonist of my story, the muse of my narrative, Christine McDonald. I came to know about her from my friend, Dr. Jenny Chandra. We were having coffee one day when she told me about her story, and I was so intrigued. I said, I have to go and meet her. And that was the day my entire life changed. And people have asked me, why Christine McDonald? There are so many prostitutes and ex-prostituted women. Why her? Well, 20 years ago, I feel like it was yesterday, I always wore contact lenses, always had weak eyes, and I had corneal aberration. And for 2 weeks, my eyes had bandages and I couldn't see. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the scariest experience of my life, not knowing who came into the room, who left the room, just moving from one room to another, afraid I'm going to bang into something, I'm going to fall. Just walking down the steps of my college was so scary for me. I remember that so well. And here is this hero, this local Kansas City hero. She is blind. She's a mother of 3 children. She's an ex-prostituted woman. She has been through gang rape, mutilation. She's shown me marks on her body. She's been through gun violence. She's been through anything and everything. And she's smiling and she's helping the community. She's helping the community. She travels from St. Louis all the way to Wichita in a train, takes a bus. I don't know how she does it. And when I see her, now I feel like nothing is impossible. I can do anything. And I feel ashamed as an architect and an artist. What am I doing for my community? What am I doing? God has blessed me so much more. It's my duty to give back as she is giving. She's a social worker. She advocates for human trafficking, the fight against human trafficking, and she is pursuing a degree in criminal justice from Penn Valley Community College. This is what she's doing. This is her home. And she lives in a trailer park, which gets flooded in the summer, at which time she and her son have to leave and find shelter elsewhere. She is still looking for a home. This is that corner where she worked as a prostituted person. She tells me that they're very territorial about their place. You can't go and stand there. It's like that's where her clients come. And there she is between 2 churches. And the church actually barricaded the space because she used to go, and people like her used to go and stand under the canopy when there would be snow and rain and hail. So they didn't want that, so they created that barricade. So in every which way, she's on the street. This is Independence Avenue. So you know, when we're all nice and warm and cozy in our beds, sleeping in the night, safe and comfortable, after months of being essentially like a rodent in the city, seeking shelter in abandoned buildings, scavenging for food in the dumpsters, and when the stench of her own body odor she cannot take, that's when she crawls into this fountain and she takes a bath here. And these are the steps right on East 8th Avenue where she comes and she meets some of her friends, and they take a brief respite of 3 or 4 days before what they call the dope man comes and throws some drugs at them and say, get up and go and work. And so they get up and they go again. Here is a small clip of the conversation I had with Christine and her friend Kathy, both ex-prostituted women. What do you do, Kathy?
Today, I've involved myself in the body of Christ. That's
Okay.
the best thing that I have done is I've accepted Jesus as my Savior. He's my Lord. I believe that He reached me even out here. He put those people in place, and that's today also what needs to happen for these ladies out here. My family, I have a very supportive and loving family.
Prostitution and crack addiction because of this one person who molested your daughter and made you as a mother feel very guilty, and so that was your way of punishing yourself.
It was a way of punishing myself, but I've had other trauma in my life. Trauma as a child, like I said, I never felt like I belonged. So even as a child, I would go off to this special field that I had, and under my special tree, and I would pull the grass up, and I would make a circle in the dirt. And he was Mr. Smiley, and he became an actual person, and he became my friend, and we went on all of these excursions together, and I became a different person because of the things that were happening at home. Like I said, my dad was an alcoholic, and sometimes it was me that he called out of bed and would take me to the table and tell me that I would never amount to anything, or he'd never be proud of me. That I was a whore and a slut. I was 11, 12 years old. I don't think I'd even had sex yet. So, but that was his outlet as far as his alcoholism and the cycle that he was in. And I so forgive him, and I understand now that cycle of addiction and how it affects your family and everybody around you. It's not just a one-person disease. It's a family. It's a community disease where everyone has to come together.
Somebody is selling somebody on the corner, even if it's, the perception of is it's your man and he cares about you, right?
True.
And then you're on the corner, somebody's paying for you, so there's money in exchange or something of monetary value. Maybe that's food, maybe that's a safe place to sleep. Doesn't have to be cash. Maybe it's drugs to fuel your addiction. So dude's going to get his sexual gratification off of that thing of monetary value to objectify your body. So I've moved around a lot. I don't go on that because I didn't want to do that, because there are unintended consequences. I have cousins and I have people, and
it affects.
You got to think about how that affects everybody, and even for my own kids, I don't want to paint that picture of them. When they're older and they can understand it and wrap their brain around it, we can have those conversations. But that's why I didn't go into deep detail there. It was intentional. But it was very bad. It was very bad. I never knew my father. My mom did not know who my father was. So there was no dad, right? And I have siblings. I have 2 older brothers and an older sister, and they were taken away from our home when I was 3. I was put back in the home, and they were put up for adoption.
Tell me about these steps. Christine, you're very particular
steps?
about
Yes,
the
steps,
steep
yeah.
steps. Why are they so important to your story? You were very clear about exactly where they were.
Yeah,
Obviously
I love those
that.
steps.
Yeah, tell me about
I love those steps. I sit on these steps too. Don't get me. I used to sit on these steps to wait for the dope man.
Yeah, exactly.
So he could see me.
Oh, they'd drive by just to give us a wake up. We called it.
Because they
So
knew
that
we
way
would get on the corner and make money.
That's right. Yes,
But,
absolutely.
But I would.
They would honk.
Oh, those
No,
would
no,
come by. Oh, they come by, just throw it out the window. Oh, here you go, Kathy. Wake up, wake up.
And they throw dope at you.
Yes, so we could go. That would wake us up, so we could go out
We'd go back on the corner.
and make them money.
And if you were hungry, you would curb the hunger pains.
Yes, I remember that.
We always have to think about when I do a presentation in front of professionals. I always tell people we're all a book, and we all enter the world through the book cover.
Yeah.
Because we're all born, and how that birth looks is different for all of us in those moments. But we're all born, and then we all die, and how we die is different for all of us. But all those things in between, all those chapters, lead up to where we are in that present moment. And so often we look at that present moment and that present behavior, and we don't think about all those steps and things that happened prior to lead you into that moment in time. And then we judge based on that behavior and that moment in which we encounter people. You put together a game plan and you cry for the pain that you're experiencing, that nobody gives a damn, and nobody's there to wipe your tears, and nobody's going to clean your cuts, and suck it up, and you go do it all over again.
So while we sat and talked, this is the location that we're at, looking at Lycan Square Park. And look at this park. It's so beautiful. The first time I came here, I didn't even know the criminal activities that go on over here. It is just an absolutely silent, tranquil space. But the most eerie thing about it is that there is nobody here. Even on a weekend in the afternoon, when the children playing in the streets, there's nobody here. So the most beautiful thing that's happening right now is 5 agencies are coming together to revitalize this area. And as Greg and Jude pointed out, Lycan's Neighborhood Association, Tyken KC, Maddie Roads, Catholic Charities, and Habitat for Humanity, they are coming together to revitalize this community. When I came to know about it, I was reminded of what happened 15 years ago when I was on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity in Topeka, Kansas. NAWIC, National Association for Women in Construction, and Habitat for Humanity, we had come together and created, and we were remodeling houses. I was working on this house, 1223 Lincoln Street. We were so proud of this house. It was for a young family with 16 kids. And about 2 years later, I wanted to go and see that place again. So I went back. This is what I found. And I thought about it so much, and I realized why that had happened. And it's so interesting that our new art commissioner, Mr. James Martin, is here today. I'm very honored to say. But Mr. Martin said this in the Kansas City magazine as well, that he emphasized the importance of public art. Public art is very important for creating a sense of community in a neighborhood. It actually brings a group of people, a group of houses together in shared togetherness, in a sense of belonging, in a sense of community. That was what was lacking in this house. We had remodeled the houses, but we had not given them a sense of belonging. Mr. Martin said in the Kansas City magazine, he said, a community or a nation can be divided into opposite views. They can be polarized. But when there is a work of art in that space, then one side starts talking about that work. The other side starts listening. And then they add to it, or they may say something against it. And then these people talk, and that people talk, and these people talk. And then slowly communication starts to happen organically. And people who would not want to listen to each other are now communicating. And what happens when communications happen? Dialogues happen. When dialogues happen, resolutions happen. The community progresses. That is the most important work that a public art can generate. It creates a center. It creates a nexus, what we architects call an axis mundi, spiritus centralis, creating a locus point, creating that center just like the nucleus of the atom that we are all made up of, creating that center that brings in neighborhoods together, communities together, nations together. I'm going to illustrate with certain examples. The Statue of Liberty. This is a country of immigrants. And we all see the Statue of Liberty and it resonates with us. Freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is our right. This is what the founding fathers have given us. So when we see this, we are all connected as citizens of the United States. The plaza, the Country Club Plaza, our pride and joy. A slice of Seville, Italy, brought to Kansas City with the Roman gods and goddesses. J.C. Nichols fountain. I'm sure that when you all drive by, you look at the fountain to see what is the color. What color does it have? And oh, did the Chiefs win? Did the Royals win? Or if it's Christmas, color and light become so symbolic of this installation, this public artwork. the thinker at the Rodin, at the Nelson Atkins, doesn't this remind you of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.? The pride of place with overlooking the city beyond. And The Crying Giant, which is really about a personal journey. Again, I'm going to quote Mr. Martin, who says, sometimes a public work is just there and you pass by and it comes upon you by surprise and it engages you. In my opinion, this is one of those works. It creates a personal narrative between the viewer and the work. A moment in time, laughing children, children playing in the water. The shuttlecocks taken by these Swedish, Finnish artists taking a painting from within the museum and placing it around the park in a seemingly haphazard fashion, but really is a nod to site inclusion. But of all of these public art monuments, the one that resonates the most with me is this one, the Holocaust Memorial. By the way, tomorrow is the 75th anniversary of the freedom of Jews in Auschwitz by the Soviets. So the whole world is rejoicing, right? Yeah. And the 6 glass towers are there, which represents the 6 death camps and representing the 6 million Jews that died. Okay? But why are we making these memorials? We're making these memorials because when this was happening to the Jews, we were silent. The world was silent when one race was getting annihilated through anti-Semitism. We, all over the world, we were quiet. And now we are remorseful. Countries, governments are remorseful. So all over the world, we are creating these memorials to say we are sorry. Is it the end? Is there no victimization going on now? It is the fastest growing crime in the world. And it is happening right under our noses. And we are doing nothing. We are looking the other way. I'm going to read this out. They first came for the communists, but I did not speak up because I was not a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak up because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak up because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I did not speak up because I was a Protestant. And then they came for me, and by that time, there was no one left to speak up. The crime that is happening today is affecting the most vulnerable segment of our community, our children. 100,000 children every year are getting sold into slavery. This is true emancipation. Likens Square Park. As I stood at the step, at the top of the stairs over here, I didn't know what was below. I was standing there with Christine McDonald. She kept talking about these stairs. She said, at the bottom of those steps over there, that's home for us. That's where we all met, my friends and I met. And you know, that is where my friend Rick died. And I said, and she's named her son after him, but he was 16, an African-American, beautiful boy, raped and murdered right there at the bottom of those steps. And he's not just one incident. There are so many incidents. That green grass has the blood of so many innocent bodies. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this. This is what I found when I walked down there. And as I walked through this path, this beautiful path, like I said, not a soul in sight, a lot of beautiful houses with porches, screen porches, and rocking chairs outside. Nobody in sight. But as I walked through the space, I could feel the breeze, and I could smell the grass, and I could hear the rustling of the leaves and the birds, and just, it was such a beautiful space. And I'm so excited that these 5 agencies are coming together to revitalize this place. And we have a new art commissioner, James Martin, for the city, for Kansas City. It is a perfect combination of all these dynamic individuals who are going to come together and drive these criminals away from this place. Here is my proposal as an artist. I propose these lampposts that are already there. We put large glass panels that really tell a story, so that as you walk through the space, the story becomes revealing to you. So this place has so much history. This place has lost so many lives of victims yesterday, today, and tomorrow. They should not be forgotten. They should be remembered. And so when they do this revitalization project, when we make these glass panels, put up these glass panels over here, they will, as people walk through the space, we will see what the history of Kansas City was. The history of Kansas City is no different from the history of another city. But I think we as a community should not take these stories and shove it under the rug. We should celebrate these stories, because these stories are not about evil and doom. These stories are about triumph. They are about celebration. These stories are about people coming together and helping people. This is what I propose. So there are 4 lampposts along that walking path that are existing right now in the space. Exactly 4 lampposts from the bottom of the stair. There's one over there, then about 40 to 60 feet further there's another one. So like that there are 4, and then the walking path ends. So as you walk through each space, each lamppost, the story reveals itself to you. The first one being isolation, where a young girl is being abducted and taken by the pimp in the car away from her home to be sold into slavery. And by the way, in this installation, I'm really showing hands as a motif for conveying a story, because for me, I take inspiration from artists like Michelangelo and Raphael. Michelangelo, as you know, one of his most famous works is the Sistine Chapel, where God and man touching each other with the finger, or Raphael, the School of Athens in the Papal Chambers at the Vatican, where he shows philosophers, mathematicians, astronomers, just by what they're holding in their hand. So the hand is so important in my installation as well. So as you can see, the pimp's hand is large and dark, and her hands are small and frail, and she's trying to move it away, but she cannot. So this is isolation. This is damnation, where she is now under the complete influence of drugs. Her eyes are vacant, she cannot see, she doesn't know where she is, and her hands are out there as if to say, I surrender, please don't do anything to me. Do whatever you need to do, and you know, I'll be your slave, but don't hurt me. And there is the pimp threatening her. I'm reminded of Mark Twain's saying, he says, of all the things I've lost in my life, I miss my mind the most. And that is what the women said too. They just don't even remember a large part of their life. I mean, it's just years became hours for them. They are like walking carcasses, emaciated versions of themselves, because they're not eating. They're living on dope. They're just day after day after day, barely sleeping. So now it's just skin and bones. And here is the church in the background with the lights on, but the door closed. And here is that pedestrian looking at them, or perhaps away from them, but oblivious to what is happening at the bottom of the stairs. And those stairs are the stairs of Lycans Park, the infamous stairs where all the activities, the criminal activities happen. Our Kansas City fountains, resplendent in color and light, but of no use to our enslaved women and children. And then there's us, represented as the buildings, silent in the background, not knowing, not wanting to know. And there's redemption. So after working for 16 years in slavery, she got blind, Christine got blind, and she managed to get out. The church reached out to her, and that's the pastor's hand reaching out to her, and her hand is on her heart, as if to say, I choose to live, I want to live. This is what she always told me. She said, Hasna, so many people passed me by when I was on the street. Nobody ever stopped to watch me. They looked at me and they would immediately turn away. They never stopped to help. For the first time, she got help from the church, and that's how she turned her life around. The church, as you can see, is now in the foreground, and the street lights are illuminating her. And finally, she's focused, her eyes are focused again. She can see again. And this is the last panel, Salvation, in which she has a book in her hand, and for the first time, she's inside a house. For all of us, the most safe, the most loving place where we are loved and cared for, and we look forward to, at the end of the day, wherever we are in the world, is to get back home. These women don't have a home. Their only wish in life is to have safety and love. And so this last panel is really her dream come true. This is what she's fighting for even now. And if you see her hands, this is just a twist in the story for those who hear the tale, and then I'm sure it will be lost through time, but people ask me, what is she reading? She's not reading, she's actually closing the book. If you see her thumb, it's outside the book, it's not in the book. And the reason she's closing the book is because she's blind, she cannot see. So this is the installation. Like Mr. Martin said, there are two opposite, polarized parts to this concept, this phenomena, this reality of human trafficking. The past 1 year, people asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing my project with human trafficking. They're like, what a waste of time. These women, they bring it on themselves. This is easy money for them. I work hard for a living. From morning to night, I'm working, okay? I am a tax-paying citizen of the United States. Look at them, they're just there, and they're just a burden on society. I'm just one person. I cannot fight with everybody. I don't have the energy, and I don't have the time. And I know I cannot convince anybody. But I know this, that when there is a public art installation in the park, it's going to generate a conversation. It's going to generate a conversation because this is reality, and there are a lot of women right there, around there, and like Kevin said, like Dr. Kevin Vogt said, right here in our neighborhood too, we just don't know. And so this installation is really a memorial. It's a memorial for all the victims who have given their lives, who have had to sacrifice their lives just because of fate, just because of where they're born, because they are not blessed like all of us in this room. They didn't have a proper childhood. They were stolen, or they had to run away because their environment was so unsafe. From one safe environment to another unsafe environment. Can you imagine what their lives must have been like? Like Christine McDonald said to me, Hasna, imagine the worst day of your life and multiply it 10 times, and it comes close to what we feel every day of our lives. So it is a memorial for these victims, because we should not forget. It's also a memorial for all those people, the women and men who are helping them, ministering to them, spending their entire life's work. We know sisters in Troost Avenue, in churches, who spend their entire life taking care of them. So there are so many blessed people who are doing this work, and this is a memorial for them. It's also an intervention. It's an intervention into a current, into a present problem, because we need to confront those who are perpetrating this crime, and we need to give hope to those who are embedded in the cycle of poverty, addiction, and exploitation. And finally, it's a celebration. It's a celebration of hope for the community, for a better future. And it is also hope for the solidarity and togetherness of our communities. When we come together and we do something good, it really and truly brings the whole world together. As poet George Herbert says in The Windows, doctrine and life, color and light, when they combine and mingle, bring a great sense of regard and awe. But speech alone vanishes like a flaring thing, and in the ear, not conscience ring. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you into the light.
Perhaps an instrument that more intimate than almost any instrument except the human voice. Expensive Venetian fused glass. Opulent art. And for what? For whom? Worship, culture, art. Art, worship. We adorn what we love. We adorn with jewels. We adorn with chaconnes, counterpoint, wasted notes. We adorn what we love, whom we love. Worship, culture, art, memorial, intervention, celebration. Thank you all for coming tonight. Won't you linger a bit for conversation, a little wine, a little food? Deepest gratitude to Keith Stanfield for that precious music. Thank you, Keith. To Hasna Sal for sharing her art with us, for sharing her soul with us. And let's adorn what we love. Thank you.